Hey, I'm Jusko from ProblemMoney.com. New credit card codes, merchant codes are coming for gun sales. Is it a good idea or is it an invasion of privacy, a slippery slope? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. But first, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already. And if you have already, I thank you for doing so. So I was just on vacation and this was not necessarily the topic that I was looking forward to coming back to because it's got all sorts of political overtones. However, since we talk about credit cards all the time on this channel, it was one that I thought I should tackle. So last week, the International Organization for Standardization, they approved a new merchant category code specific to gun stores. So there are many merchant category codes, or MCCs, that have already existed for a long time, and they are things that are specific to things like gas stations, grocery stores, restaurants, different types of travel, and a million other things as well. If you're someone that has reward credit cards, you might already know what an MCC is because you might be worried about whether a particular purchase coded correctly in order for you to get your 5% cash back in a certain category or whatever. Up till now, gun stores have not been singled out with their own merchant category code. They got sort of lumped in with general merchandise or specialty retailers or things of that nature where there could be a lot of other businesses that were very different than gun stores, and they were just one of many things that might fit under a very broad umbrella. Now, the major payment networks, MasterCard, Visa, American Express, did not actually have to adopt this code if they didn't want to, but all three of them have said that they will. Now, the idea behind the new code is to track suspicious gun sales, which obviously on the surface sounds like a good thing. If something is suspicious, maybe we want to take a closer look. But of course, the question is, what constitutes suspicious? If you are a perfectly normal gun owner who does not do anything wrong, maybe you don't like the idea that now there is going to be a specific gun sale code. That means that maybe that is going to be a new data point about you that is somehow going to be used in a larger framework to sort of identify who you are, what you're about, and how you might be treated in the future. Now, in doing some reading and watching some videos about this topic today, I came upon a statistic that in around 75% of the mass shootings in the last 3 years or 5 years, whatever it was, the person that did the shooting bought their guns and ammunition using a credit card, and in many of those cases, the bill for those guns and ammunition was very high. So something where they would probably not have had enough to pay in cash, or if they had, it would have looked like a very strange purchase. But if you just do it with a credit card, you could buy it all once, or you could buy in multiple spots, and you have a large credit line to be able to do it with. So the idea here is that when someone does make these really large purchases, that would raise a red flag. What is this particular person up to? And so you would be singling out the people that are doing something that seems suspicious versus your sort of everyday gun buyer. Now, if this video is the first time you are learning that this is happening, you might have a couple objections or things that you say, well, what about this? And the first one of those might be the fact that there are dedicated gun stores out there, but you can buy a gun in a lot of other places as well. Sporting goods stores often have guns. Walmart even has guns. However, those stores oftentimes are going to be a little more restrictive in terms of the types of guns and ammunition that you can buy from them. So it's a little different than a dedicated gun store. And those stores, if they chose to, they actually could have dedicated registers only for gun sales, and they could still use these codes. So as it stands, yes, they would code as whatever the type of store it is, but they also maybe, if they feel like this is something that sort of applies to them, they could make it that they are sort of a gun store within a larger store and have those purchases code that way. And then, of course, number two, you might say, well, people will find another way to get their hands on guns and ammunition if they can't use the credit cards. And there's no argument against that other than to say that you're making it a little harder. So the barrier is going up in terms of being able to get your hands on the guns and ammunition if you have to pay in cash because you don't have the ease of doing it with a credit card. So this isn't something politically where there's an idea that you're going to stop all of the people that potentially are going to do bad things, but it's a way to make it harder for them to do it because they don't have the ease of the credit line, and if they have to get the cash, some of them may not be able to get the cash at all. Now, obviously, all of this plays into one of the biggest political disconnects of our times, and because there is a lot of loud yelling going on in all corners of the internet, you are going to be hearing from the extremes on one end about how bad it is, the extremes on the other about how good it is. But for those of us who consider themselves a little more middle of the road politically, and I would include myself there. I think the question is, does this cut down on these mass shootings without there being too many unintended consequences? Obviously, we all, regardless of which end you are on, would like to see fewer mass shootings. Now, it's easy to see the upside here. Stopping bad people from doing bad things is a victory. However, it's also easy to understand the slippery slope argument that says this is potentially an invasion of privacy by looking at the purchases that people make and potentially singling out people that go to gun stores. You could make the case that a merchant category code of a gun store is no different than one for a movie theater or a hair salon or a restaurant or a gas station or a grocery store. But in truth, I think we all know that especially with today's politics, there is a difference. So if you're someone that shops at a gun store, even if you're totally responsible in everything you do with your guns and ammunition, you might start to wonder, well, now is the bank going to be looking at me differently, and could this be something that is used against me in some way? We all know that banks and credit card companies use any information they can get about you to market to you, but also maybe in the future you would wonder, are they also using this to maybe give me or not give me a loan or a credit card because I shop at a gun store? Maybe they look through the numbers and they find out, and I'm just making this up, maybe they find out that people that shop at gun stores are more likely to be delinquent on their credit cards or loans. Or maybe the other way, maybe they find out that they are less likely to. But you have to wonder, are you going to be looked at closer? You don't worry if you are someone that goes to the hair salon often that anyone is going to red flag the number of times that you are getting your hair styled or how many Big Macs you're eating at fast food restaurants because of the code on fast food. So there is a reason, if you are someone, especially in today's climate, who shops at a gun store, to wonder what's going to become of that information. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, whether this becomes a big issue or whether it is just a sort of blip in the news, another way that the government uses to try to find people who might do bad things before they do them, which they already tried to do in many other ways in terms of collecting information. The question always is, what is the balance between our individual rights and our privacy rights versus the good of the group as a whole? And that is kind of the basis of our whole society and the basis of all our politics. What is that balance? Where do we draw the line? And there's no right or wrong answer to it. So when we look at this, it's just another one of those things where people are going to have differences of opinion. Like I said at the beginning, I was maybe a little reluctant to even talk about this issue because it is almost more of a political issue than it is a financial issue. Some people are going to watch this and think I'm a bleeding heart liberal. Some people are going to watch this and think that I'm a crazy wingnut. You just can't win. So with that said, if you have any thoughts about it, I'd love to hear them in the comments, but if they're too crazy, I might erase them. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, and as always, please go to proudmoney.com where we do credit card reviews, we talk personal finance, we talk deals, and all sorts of other fun stuff too. If you're not going to go to the website or you're not going to leave a comment, I would ask you to watch this video next.